Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the CDT Festival of Science 2013. We're very excited about the day we've got lined up. We've got lots of great speakers to share with you. So the theme for this year's festival is Science as a Force for Change. Lots of you will have been at last year's event where they spoke about the future of science. So in particular, we remembered John Beddington, who spoke about all the challenges that will be facing us as scientists and as society in the future. So he spoke about climate change. I heard on the radio again this morning telling everyone about how drastic and extreme the measures need to be now. And it was a great but a really quite a gloomy talk about growing population, how to feed it, about energy, healthcare. So we really wanted this year to come back at that with some of the great work that's being done as a force for positive change and development in the world. So we're showcasing some great research that's been done in the fields of quantum information technology and renewable energy and healthcare. And we're going to have our representatives from our own CDTs battling it out in the CDT off. And then later this afternoon we'll have our very own science question time, hosted by our own David Dimbleby, Oscar, and we'll be asking questions that you guys have submitted to do with science policy and how to make that better. So I really hope there'll be something for everybody to be inspired as to how their work can be used as a force for positive development in the world. Remember, science is a very powerful thing, and that puts us as scientists in a very powerful position. So I hope bear that in mind as you listen to the great talks today. And with that, I think I'll introduce Adrian Sutton for our official welcome address. Thank you, and enjoy the day.
Thank you very much, and let me add my welcome to you all. Science as a force for change. So what do we mean by that? Well, many of us may immediately start thinking about technology and how technology has increasingly shaped our world, but I think it's much more subtle than that. Science is a way of thinking, a way of knowing. The scientific method is the only rigorous way we can actually know anything. And this has had an impact in government. The idea that each government department should have a chief scientific advisor so that policy within that department is evidence-based. And there was a very interesting review carried out last year by the House of Lords Select Committee on Science and Technology into the chief scientific advisors and their roles in government departments. And they had a very clear vision for what the chief scientific advisors were supposed to do: to challenge departmental policy making with scientific evidence, to oversee the use of evidence across departments effectively, and to be able to speak truth to power. Well, as part of that inquiry, the Campaign for Science and Engineering carried out a study in 2011, and they found huge inconsistencies in the science advice in government in terms of whether the chief scientific advisors had any scientific background, the independence of the chief scientific advisor, in other words, whether they were truly independent, brought in from outside, or whether they were a civil servant, and the extent of their involvement in decision making. My own experience has actually been very limited of dealing with government departments, and it's quite recent. I was asked by the Department for Education to comment on an early draft of the national curriculum just before Christmas. I wasn't the only one. There were about 3 or 4 of us in the Royal Society who were asked. And the first thing we had to do was sign a non-disclosure agreement, which actually forbade us from talking to each other. And I have to say, I would describe the Department for Education as an evidence-free zone. and you can see the consequences of that. Just last week, there was a letter to the Independent, which was signed by 100 academics, condemning the rote learning approach and the micromanagement of education, which embodies Michael Gove's ideas. The letter goes on to talk about betraying a serious mistrust of teachers, which I think is absolutely true. It will result in dumbing down of teaching and learning, and it will also result in a demoralization of the teaching profession. And that's what happens, I think, when you don't listen to people and take note of people who actually have something to say. And my own belief is that whoever is elected in 2015, probably one of the very first things they will have to do is institute another major review of GCSE education. So that's all I really wanted to say about the Chief Scientific Advisor roles. Let's just look at today's festival. It is a truly spectacular lineup of speakers, and I should emphasize that this is an entirely student-organized, student-led festival. The staff have not been involved at all, really. And I think we should acknowledge the tremendous work that has been done by two people from each of the 4 CDTs. From chemical biology, that's Angela de Manzanos and Pietro Aronica. From controlled quantum dynamics, Azar and Cisco Dominguez and Devin Dunseith. From plastic electronics, Sarah Holliday and George Richardson. And from theory and simulation of materials, Vincent Chen and Musab Kawaja. I think we should acknowledge their contribution.